There's a man worth $400 million who drives a 1987 Volvo, not because he can't afford anything better, because he understands something most people never will. You've seen it before and probably didn't think much of it. An older gentleman pulling up to a five-star restaurant in a car that's older than most of the waitstaff. No flashy rims, no personalized plates, no heads turning. Just a quiet, unremarkable vehicle that whispers absolutely nothing about the person inside. And yet, that silence is the loudest thing in the room. Here's what nobody tells you about real wealth. The people who have had money for generations, not years, generations, they don't buy cars to be seen. They buy cars to get somewhere. That distinction might sound small. It isn't. It's actually the entire difference between wealth that lasts and wealth that evaporates within a generation. Think about the last time you saw someone pull up in a brand new luxury SUV, windows down, music loud. Your eyes went to the car first. That was the point. That car was purchased to produce exactly that reaction in exactly people like you. And the person inside needed that reaction. They needed you to see them as successful, which means on some level, they weren't sure you would if they drove something ordinary. Old money doesn't have that problem. When your family has been wealthy for 100 years, you have nothing left to prove to strangers in parking lots. Your confidence doesn't live in your car. It lives in your portfolio, your network, your name, and the values that were handed down to you before you were old enough to want things you didn't need. There's a psychological term for what new money tends to do. It's called conspicuous consumption. The economist Thorstein Veblen wrote about it in 1899, and it described the behavior of people who buy things not for their utility, but for their visibility. The watch that costs $30,000 doesn't tell time better than a watch that costs $30,000. But it tells other people something. And that telling, that performance, is what's actually being purchased. Old money finds this embarrassing, not in a judgmental way. In the way that someone who genuinely loves food finds it embarrassing when someone orders the most expensive thing on the menu without even reading what it is. It's a signal of insecurity dressed up as taste. The families who have maintained wealth across multiple generations share a remarkably consistent set of values, and one of them is a deep resistance to depreciating assets. A new luxury car loses roughly 20% of its value the moment it leaves the dealership. In the first 5 years, it can lose up to 60%. Old money looks at that math and feels something close to physical discomfort. Not because they can't absorb the loss, they can, but because losing money carelessly is considered a character flaw, not just a financial mistake. There's a family in Boston, old railroad money, where the children are given an allowance as teenagers, but they're also required to keep a ledger, every dollar in, every dollar out, and a written explanation for every discretionary purchase. Not to punish them, to train them, to build the instinct that money is not a feeling, it's a tool, and tools are respected. That ledger habit, instilled at 14, is why those children grow up and drive sensible cars at 45, even when their net worth has 8 figures behind it. The car is never just the car. It's a reflection of your entire relationship with money. When you buy a vehicle to impress, you are renting validation. Every month you make that payment, you are paying for the way other people see you. Old money would rather invest that difference and let compound interest do its quiet, invisible, deeply satisfying work over decades. And here's something that might genuinely change the way you see things. The older car, the one that gets dismissed, the one that doesn't turn heads, it often runs perfectly because it's been meticulously maintained. Old money maintains things. They repair rather than replace. They restore rather than discard. The same philosophy that keeps a 1987 Volvo running beautifully is the same philosophy that keeps an estate intact across 5 generations. You take care of what you have. You don't abandon things because something shinier appeared. This is also about identity. New money often builds its identity around its purchases. The car, the watch, the neighborhood, the restaurant. These become the story they tell about themselves. Old money already has a story. It predates the purchases by generations. The car doesn't define them because they were already defined long before they were old enough to drive. Think about what that actually feels like. To walk into a room and need nothing from it. To not require anyone's approval, anyone's admiration, anyone's second glance. That kind of freedom doesn't come from having money. It comes from having had money long enough that it becomes invisible to you. It stops being the point. It becomes the background. And when money becomes the background, you start optimizing for things that actually matter. Time, relationships, health, legacy, meaning. The truly wealthy don't talk about money the way people who are building wealth do. They don't broadcast their net worth, their investment returns, or their recent acquisitions. There's an old saying in certain European aristocratic circles: a gentleman's name should appear in the newspaper only 3 times. At birth, at marriage, and at death. Everything else is performance, and performance is exhausting. Now consider what this means for you, regardless of where you are financially right now. The habits of old money are not locked behind a trust fund. They are a philosophy, and philosophies can be adopted. The discipline of distinguishing between what you want and what you need. The practice of maintaining what you have rather than always reaching for the next thing. The quiet confidence of knowing your value is not determined by what other people can see from the outside. Every time you feel the pull to upgrade, to announce, to display, ask yourself one honest question. Who is this for? If the answer is for you, genuinely for your own enjoyment and utility, that's one thing. But if the answer is for the way it will make others see you, you are renting validation with money that could be working for you while you sleep. The old car in the driveway of the old estate isn't a sign of neglect. It's a sign of mastery. Mastery over ego, over impulse, over the very human and very expensive need to be seen as something. Old money already knows what it is. It doesn't need a new car to remind anyone. The $400 million man with the 1987 Volvo isn't making a statement. That's precisely the point. The rest of us are so busy making statements that we never stop to count what those statements are actually costing us. Real wealth is quiet. And quiet, it turns out, is the most expensive sound in the world.